being the best at what you do in the world in which you live is enormously valuable. How do you become the best one? You don't quit when everyone else does.
My truth in my experience has been, I have to jump higher. I have to show up earlier. I have to be the first person to turn off the light and the last person to turn off the light. I have to make sure that every number is correct and every T is crossed and every die is dotted. The way that I show up is by being consistent, so consistent that people cannot doubt your capacity to succeed. You have to work harder than the average person. And if you accept those terms, you cannot complain about those terms. I have only known success on the back of consistency. And if you don't show up in your business loving what you turn over for your customers or your clients, your business is in decline.
The earlier you figure it out, the better off you are. But it can happen later in life. You got to listen to yourself. You got to be a bit bold. You have to embrace what makes you different. I say what makes you weird because I know personally I'm a very weird person. I don't mind being weird. I use it to my advantage. I put it in my books.
We are so brainwashed. Unless you buy the newest iPhones or newest something, and then you feel like you're out of the group. So like finding the right environment is also very important.
While somebody is sitting on their couch behind their keyboard, they're going to have an opinion of you starting a business or not starting a business. The fact of the matter remains, are you going to let somebody else's opinion dictate what you are going to do in your life and the reason you are put on this earth?
But people who have the worst circumstances in them, they're either crushed by it or they use it to develop themselves. But you cannot get ahead in this world as a social animal, dependent on other people in every aspect of life.
The biggest difficulty is that people fall and then they stay down. The greatest entrepreneurs are the people who understand that falling is part of the process. Somebody else's opinion of us doesn't pay our bills. The person who has an opinion about what it is you're doing was most likely never going to become a customer.
You hear all these, like, I'd say fake entrepreneurs or fake coaches. They don't actually have any real businesses. They're like, you got to 10x today and you got to 5x. If you're not 5xing, you're failing. And the reality is when you set less ambitious goals for yourself, you can stick with them for longer because you're not burnt out, you're not tired, you can sustain. And that gives you the ability to create 10x opportunities because you're like, okay, cool, I'm not worried about making money in that, but I can go do things that potentially, be moonshots and really drive the company for the future.
Find someone who sits in a position that you want to be in. The fastest way to get to where you want to be, find someone that's already there and ask them for help. You would be amazed how many older, successful people want to help. So don't talk yourself out of asking for help. But also, one of my favorite ones is show me your friends and I'll show you your future. I see so many people surrounding themselves. See, your frequency is your neighborhood. And let me explain what that means is your frequency is created by your neighbors. And if you're sitting in the projects on a lawn chair drinking a Colt 45, you may have all the skills in the world, all the knowledge in the world, all the desire in the world. And when you turn to your buddy on the lawn chair drinking and you say, hey, can you help me? How many options, opportunities, and touches of favor do you think someone in your neighborhood is going to be able to give you? I'm telling you, frequency and vibration wise, surround yourself with the right people and the right ideas. Show me your friends, I'll show you your future. Surround yourself with people that are going to give you more options, more opportunities, and more touches of favor. Surround yourself with people that feed you. So many people are being bled. 80% of their time is around people that make them feel like crap. They're watching things that make them feel like crap. They're listening things that make them feel like crap. They're surrounding themselves with people that make themselves feel with crap. They're being bled all day long and wonder why they feel bled.
Well, it's never too late. It's better to start earlier on in life. The earlier you figure it out, the better off you are. But it can happen later in life. Now, I figured out at an early age that I wanted to write. I didn't know what I wanted to write, but I loved words and I loved writing. And if I didn't have that connection when I was 8 years old, all the way into high school and college, I would have been a lost soul. And I empathize with a lot of people who don't have that feeling when they're 8 or 18 or in their 20s. But I've tried to tell people everybody has it. You're just not listening to yourself. You've lost touch with who you are, the core of your being. You're on social media too much. You're listening to what other people are telling you. You're listening to what your parents told you should be doing in life. You're listening to what your friends think is cool. You're listening to what the culture is all about, the entertainment industry, etc. You got to cut all that out. You got to listen to yourself. You got to be a bit bold. And you have to embrace what makes you different. What makes you different, what makes you particularly strange, if you want to use another word, is your strength, is your source of power. You've lost touch with it. Let's go back and try and find it. And that's the whole problem. How do you find it? Well, it's a process. It takes time. To do anything in life takes time and hours and patience and work. I recommend starting a journal and such, and writing down some of the things that I think are important to you. So I like to tell people to go back to their earliest childhood memories of things that really excited them before they got mixed up with parents and teachers and all that, other people telling them stuff, you know? If you are somebody who's word-oriented and you end up going into a field that's about math or about numbers, you're in for a lot of pain in life, right? So you've got to figure that kind of what I call primal connection to some kind of field. You have to look at the things that you love and the things that you hate.
The vision, right? And so for your vision, well, we said we want to build a great sustaining company into the 21st century because we had just sold Razzler, and we actually kind of wanted to keep it going. They just made us an offer we couldn't refuse. We owed that to the shareholders. And then the mission is all about leadership, because the object of the game, particularly in Silicon Valley, is to be the category king. Because when you're the category king, you get 80% of the industry resources and 80% of market cap. So our mission was to create a category called business-to-business electronic commerce and to be the leader. And then the next thing under that is your values. So, right, integrity's there, courage, high ambition, accountability, respect, the basics. And then we had a set of team rules that kind of personify those values. And by the way, same team rules for all the companies. The first one is direct, open, and honest communication. In a word, the truth. Because I had seen General Motors, when you go through 15 levels, you know, I started at the lowest of the low, production floor, to the highest of the high, where I was staff for the board of directors. I could see how that message would change, right? The second one is no idea is a bad idea. And then we added parentheses, unless the CEOs. So, because it's all about making a safe environment.
Sure.
And you can make a safe environment when you mock out the CEO. Plus, it's fun. The third one is always raise the standard in everything we do, in our people, our processes, and our products. And if somebody can't keep up with that standard, you got to do something about it. Otherwise, you've automatically lowered your standard. Then the fourth one is we're a team first and functional specialist second. So you developers put your feet in the customer's shoes. You sales guys don't make commitments we can't keep. And then the fifth one is the most powerful one of all. And that is hire the best people, especially if they're better than us.
It's so funny, those of us that are entrepreneurial, we're like, I want to work for myself. And then you find out your boss is a jerk. You find out he's a slave driver. Yeah. 16-hour days and cracking the whip, and you're exhausted. You don't even know what you're doing, and you're scared, and you're lonely, and you're stepping and fetching, and you're leaving the cave trying to find something to kill and drag back. And oh my gosh, it's hard. It's really hard. And then add a bunch of outside societal variables to it that are all yelling at you that you're going to fail. It gets scary. It gets hard. And if you're not a little scared, you're weird, and you should be a little scared. That if you're not a little bit lonely and a little bit overworked and a little bit stressed, welcome to self-employment. Welcome to running a small business. That's how it works. That's the bad news. The good news is that it can get better. It's a natural place to be, because I think the hardest you ever work is when you first kick it off.
The thing that ultimately allowed me to get over the hump was actually playing out the worst case scenario in exquisite detail. Like, so if I went there and I failed, what would I do? I was like, well, I'd apply to business school and I'd have this cool story, and they like entrepreneurs. They're people who tried to do things. So this would be fine. And I have plenty of friends who would let me sleep on the couch if I had to. I could go back to mom and dad's house with my tail between my legs, which I felt that was honestly the most horrifying thing that I could imagine, going back home as a failure. But the idea, the one that got me out of it was, I can always get the job back. So like, this is actually a significantly lower risk move than I'm perceiving it to be. Me doing all this stuff only makes me more valuable. because I'll have a cooler story than somebody who just did 4 years of this job rather than 2 and then did 2 years of things on the road. The secondary argument was, for me, I was young at the time. I thought to myself, if it's this hard now, when I have no kids, I have no wife, I have no stakes, it's going to be nearly impossible for me to do later. And so I was like, I have to do it now. Those are the 2 strongest arguments that got me to take the plunge and make the bet.